Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us for another show, and happy to have the Village people today, the Swanton Village people. Swanton Village Trustee Eugene LeBombard, Village President Neil Spear, and Village Manager Bill Sheets. Thanks for joining us, folks. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Just a stat that might be I should know, we're taping this show on Thursday, June 15th. Just happened to watch Montreal News before I came over. And Canada tomorrow, I love how they can nail this down. At about 3 o'clock tomorrow, Canada is projected to hit the 40 million mark in population.
Oh, yeah.
About 3 o'clock tomorrow. I hope whoever the 40th million person, presumably baby is, gets some special goodies or something. But yeah, 40 mil in Canada. Anyway, I'm sure not much to talk about, not much going on in the village, I guess, these days, but we'll see if we can knock out an hour. I'm kidding, of course. I guess I should note, I drove through the village yesterday, and near your digs here, Neil, and gee, I didn't see something for a change. The riv is officially down.
Right.
Looked like the site looked pretty clean, too.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
Finally got rid of the hotel.
How old was the hotel? I probably asked you that before. When had it been there for a while?
1840s, I think.
Is that right?
Roughly.
Roughly.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
really?
So
Wow, long time. How'd the demo go? Did that go okay?
went great.
Yeah.
Complete demolition, did the job. Everything went as planned. Everything imploded. They started
really?
at the rear of the building.
You must have had a crowd of folks around for that, I assume.
There's videos out there
I bet.
of the process, but it went real well.
Wow.
Glad to see it cleaned up.
What is it? Almost an acre site, or a little less than
Third of an acre.
a third? Sorry, way off. A third of an acre.
Yeah.
And again, plans for this? What do you think? Housing
Well,
maybe, or
Our plan is to wait for the reports on the borings and the ground
Okay.
to see what we have to do to
right?
remediate whatever is in the ground.
Yeah.
They said there's some lead dust and some PCPs. Is that what they said?
Benzopyrene, which is a derivative of coal.
Oh
Burning
yeah.
coal.
So
How big? Not clear how big a deal that is to clean the
that's
site.
what we're waiting for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And housing might be a future for the site, or any other thoughts, or does that be the obvious thing?
After it's clear and we can find a date that somebody can start anything,
Yeah.
we're going to request proposals on whatever the developer wants to do in there. Could be housing, could be mixed use.
Yeah.
We'll see the neighborhood has recently sold to a different party, so I'm sure we want to get together with him and see what his plans are before we make a decision. But we'll request proposals for different uses of that lot. So.
Right, but not clear. Does the village own it, or is it
Yes.
the village owns it?
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Wow, interesting. In fact, it's funny, I mentioned this to you before. Guess who I happened to see in Hannaford a couple hours ago? John Edwards. I think I've mentioned on the show before my last
Yes.
memory of the riv, and I mentioned this to John this morning.
Yeah.
John, the riv is no more. I think he knew that. I said my last memory is being in there with you, leading a murder suspect out the door, going circa maybe 40 years ago or something.
Yeah.
He kind of smiled. I think he remembered that also.
Yep.
Well, there's definitely some memories that went in the dumpster there, but it was beyond any reclamation that we could have done.
It looked like it. When was the last time people were in there? Was that a number quite a few years ago, or
The last time people lived in there was probably 5 years ago.
5 years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm sure they didn't have the greatest conditions to live in, especially in the winter.
Right.
But
Bill, kudos. I think I mentioned this in a text, but again, the MVU girls softball coach, sounds like you guys had a great season. Sorry the last game didn't go better, but it sounds like it was an excellent season. Congrats. And the boys, too.
Yeah, it was a great...
Sergeant Roy is the son-in-law of my good friend Rick
Yeah.
Tatro, and both boys and girls had excellent years.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great season, very rewarding. I want to thank these gentlemen, the trustees. They're very flexible, so it allows me the time. Granted, the field is a half a mile away.
Right, it helps.
But coaching was a pleasure. We absolutely got crushed that last game.
Right, it sounded like a tough last game.
That was a tough
Of course,
loss.
BFA ended up being the champs.
Far,
quite the team.
far and away the best team this year.
Yeah,
No question. Yeah.
So are you a veteran coach? Have you got a veteran coaching background?
I coached at all different levels of all different sports, but I
Really?
coached the 18U Vermont Rockets.
Wow.
We're a 501c3, about $75,000 a year program.
No.
We go all over New England and New York, and in fact, 11 of Bert's young ladies are on our team.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yep.
Will you be back next year? Something tells me they'd like to have you back next year.
I will be back at Missisquoi as long as they will
Yeah.
have me, and I am coaching this summer for the Rockets 18U team.
Really? Hey,
Yes.
good for you.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
You've been village manager now for how long, Bill?
Yeah, we're going on about 7 months now.
7 months?
Yeah.
Interesting. And your predecessor, a longtime former village manager, Reg Belleville, is Red still a consultant with the village, Neil, or is still making some use of Reg, I would guess, or
He was a consultant
For a
on a
while.
regular basis until about a month ago.
okay.
And now he is just coming back as needed
Okay.
for the relicensing of the hydro.
Ah, yes.
I think Heidi has taken over our other projects. And so Reggie is still recovering physically. So,
Yeah.
but he was at the office before we came down here.
Oh, really?
So, but doing real well.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely be giving him a call. I'd love to sit down with him and just give him an hour or so to talk about his impressive career with the village. I trust he'll do just that. You mentioned Heidi Bridge Valenta, the now former Highgate Town Administrator, and Bill has got a big job with Swanton Village. Happy to have Heidi on board.
Delighted.
Yeah.
So she's our 38th employee, and a $12 million budget.
Wow.
Where we had some areas of growth opportunity were in grants administration and project coordination. So she's coming in with that background and expertise. When I say she's hit the ground running, phenomenal contacts, knowledge of grants, systems, just very approachable, and she's really only in her second full-time week.
Wow.
She did part-time with us for a few weeks, but a tremendous add for us. Great benefit.
Good. That's great. Gene, again, talk about Reg. Just got a lot of good years out of Mr. Belleville, I would say, huh?
Oh, he certainly did.
Yeah.
He had a certain skill with people, and he was very active in all of our affairs in the village, of course.
Of course, a long time. I don't know if he's still in the fire department. A long time, but former long time member of the fire department,
I
right?
think he's still a member, is he not?
Yeah, I think so.
so.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah, well, inactive, but he's there.
Sure.
And he's active.
Yeah.
He's aware of what's going on around the village and
Yeah.
the whole area, actually.
Yeah. But sounds like you got, I think, a decent successor here, Jane, to Reg.
Oh, I do so.
Yeah.
Yes, there's no question.
Still on
they-
probation.
Well, the interview process was done, last fall, and it didn't take long to identify a candidate,
Yeah.
you see. And we made an offer, and he said yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it's worked out very well thus far,
Yeah.
very well.
Well, certainly when I think of the village, it seems like I've been pretty stable in terms of personnel, especially with some of your top positions and stuff.
Yeah.
Not everybody can say that, I guess, although.
Well, we've had the last few half a dozen job openings that we've had. We've been lucky to have applicants that were community oriented, like
Yeah.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill is actually a native, and that are very well qualified for the job. So we have been lucky to have a good choice of candidates for all of our open positions within the last 6 months, I guess. So.
Yeah.
I could echo that,
Yeah.
saying that I was very impressed with the people that applied for the
For village
manager's
manager.
position
Yeah.
and others, because
Yeah.
some real good people have come forward that were in the community and
Huh.
I think wanted to serve the community.
Interesting.
I think we're very fortunate, like Neil says.
How many, I'm sure you told me before, how many candidates were there for village manager position? I mean, how many applicants did you get initially? How many people?
Several.
4 or 6, something like that.
Yeah.
But 2
Two
finalists.
stood out.
I got 2
stood out.
finalists.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. And both could have done the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them is doing it, actually.
Interesting. Of course, St. Albans Town, I may meet the new manager tomorrow, Sean Adkins, just coming on board. And I should kudos to Highgate, Heidi's successor in Highgate, Sharon Bousquet,
Right.
who's about to step down as a select board chairman and become town administrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, interesting. So, boy, you mentioned the relicensing that Reg will, I suspect, get a few calls on. How's that going? It sounds like that's obviously one of your biggest issues, the relicensing of the dam, the generating facility. Bill, how's that coming along?
It is, but it's a mature, well-defined process that many
Yeah.
communities have gone through before.
Yeah.
April of 2024 is the deadline, and of course, it's a dual process. It's the FERC relicensing, and then
Yeah.
the state ANR has to give you an additional permit. But it's going fine. You have people on our team, our legal team, that are experts in this area, and it's going, I think, exactly as we expected it to go.
Yeah. Does being a member of VIPSA, Vermont Public Power Supply Authority, is that helpful? Of course, however many members there are, a lot of these folks will be in the same boat. I think, isn't there at least one other utility trying to get relicensed now, another
Yeah.
VIPSA member?
There's
Morrisville.
2 others.
There's
So
2 others?
Yeah, Morrisville's a few years ahead of us,
Okay.
but quite delayed in their process.
Huh.
And Enosburg is
And
almost
Enosburg.
1 year in front of us. So there's 3 VEPSA members. VEPSA as an entity is tremendously helpful
Yeah.
across the board for all things related to the utility. But yeah, there's 3 of us that are in the same exact boat right now, and it is helpful to gain knowledge from the lessons learned from those folks.
Yeah. When we last talked about this, it sounded like dealing with the state folks was a little more, or maybe a lot more difficult than the federal folks. Is that in the case with this?
Richard, I would never use the word difficult.
Yeah.
I'd simply say it's a
former-
little bit
More
different.
challenging or whatever.
A little more onerous of
Yeah.
a process. Yes.
Interesting.
I think I was probably the one that said that, not Bill.
And you said April 2024 deadline, meaning you have to get relicensed by then or else, or what do you mean by a deadline exactly?
No, that is when our current license
okay.
expires, and if there is any delay, much like the other entities we talked about,
Yeah.
you rely on your past license to continue operating in the same exact manner without changes.
Interesting, kind of like a lot of labor contracts as they're negotiating a new contract. If they don't have one, they just keep going with the old contract until the new one kicks in.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you confident you can pull this off a little less than another year down the road?
I'm not sure that we'll be relicensed by April of 2024,
Yeah.
but I'm confident that we'll be well into the process, and then we'll take every step necessary to ensure that we never have to shut down operations.
Yeah. And how long is that relicensing good for?
50 years.
50.
Yes,
Good. That might be your last one as village manager, possibly. Huh?
for sure.
You
Boy,
can
fifth
count
one.
on it.
You can count on that. yeah.
I think, as I've told you a bunch of times, I can literally remember Orman Croft, the then village manager, probably going back to, 70s or 80s,
Yeah.
going
right.
through the same process and calling me up at the county courier, I guess, saying, Richard, big news, we just got our relicensing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it sounds like quite the process.
Yeah.
Anyway, not exactly the only thing on your plate. What about the village complex and hearing did you just buy some land for another building or something? Seems like I heard some rumblings about that.
We did. The village was fortunate enough to secure the property right next door. So the current complex is at 121st Street. 124 is the former Carroll Concrete, former Anderson Concrete complex
Right.
that was owned briefly by RL Valley Corporation.
Huh.
So we were very fortunate. They were great partners, and we purchased that land and immediately determined internally with the support of the trustees that it is an ideal site to have a critical need public safety facility built.
Huh.
The current building we're in is, by the time we renovate, will be about 50 years old. As it sits today, I believe we're at almost 48 years old.
Really?
Yes.
So new public safety building, and we're talking police department in there?
Talking about a 20,000 square foot facility that will
Okay.
house fire department
And fire department.
and
too.
police department. So I don't know if you've had the opportunity to view where the police department is now, but
I've been in there a few times.
this studio
Yeah.
is as large as our entire police
Yeah. Yeah, I
department
know the
with
PD.
no modernization, no safety mechanisms, would not meet any accreditation criteria at all.
Not to mention no holding cell or
Right.
anything like that, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's
No, I know it's very small.
so. I love the fact that our trustees have the leadership courage to take this issue to the voters. We will begin a series of open houses late in the summer to show folks exactly why we're doing what we're doing. The exterior of the building was done a decade ago. During the renovation, we don't need to do much with that. What we do need to do is knock down a lot of walls inside and repurpose the facility. So Public Works would inherit the fire department space. The electric department would then properly expand into where Public Works is now. We have valuable pieces of equipment that are kept outside right now,
Really?
to include, key pieces of equipment for across the board. And, this is, it's a generational need. It's a 50-year need, and that's the age of the current building. So we look forward to the opportunity to showcase what we're trying to do and the deficiencies of our current building to our voters in anticipation of going to bond in March of next year.
So village meeting next year?
Yes.
Correct.
So again, the village has bought this land, has acquired the land?
Yeah.
Correct.
And
Yes.
you go to voters for however, any rough cost estimate now, or are we way early on that for the new building?
Way early. We just had approval at the trustees meeting. We selected REARC as our construction manager. So they haven't even started looking at it yet. And really, that's the construction manager's job to, we have one shot to get this correct. And we want to make sure that we give an accurate amount based on critical need to our taxpayers. And then we'll be able to identify the length of bond that we're eligible for and the impact on the taxpayers.
Interesting. Just talking, as I mentioned, off air to the Swanton Town folks earlier today. In fact, Brian Savage, the town administrator, and Earl Fournier, the select board chair. A big issue for those folks, which is their community recreation center that they're working on. And they were saying they think that'll be when that goes to voters, presumably at some point, maybe next town meeting, that would be the first bond vote that Swanton Town is doing. That was a little surprising to me, but at quick glance, they weren't thinking of any other bond vote that had come up. Anyway.
For the town,
For the town,
Yeah.
talking the town.
right.
Yeah.
Talking the town.
Yeah, they haven't had a bond vote for
Yeah,
a lot of years.
interesting. But yeah, they may be, we'll see.
That's a good sign.
Yeah,
there's
yeah, I
progress.
guess so.
If they're going for a bond vote, there's something getting done. That's good.
Yeah. Is there a rough price tag, or is it way early on for a price tag on the new public safety building?
It's way too early.
Yeah.
Obviously, it will be in the millions. We just don't know exactly what that's going to look like
Yeah.
yet.
Interesting. And Gene, this sounds like a no-brainer going after this property. Was this a good way to go?
It was going back a couple of years, maybe 3-4 years, when Carol had the property up for sale.
Yeah.
We were interested.
Huh.
We looked at it.
Huh.
We didn't have any money.
Oh, yeah.
And then somebody did, and we lost
yeah.
that opportunity, if you wish,
Huh.
because it is perfect location
Yeah.
for us. And suddenly, I guess, the buyer came to see our village manager.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did anybody else? Were you the only? Was anybody else interested in this property? Do you know?
I made a cold call and we bought it
You bought
the
it?
next day, basically.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we let it go by once. And
Yeah. Not going to do that again.
with the ARPA funds, we had
Yeah,
had
exactly.
the opportunity.
Right.
The
So-
ARPA funds made it available to us to act immediately.
Oh, is that right?
And that-
Interesting.
That's what we did.
Right.
Interesting. What are you getting? What did the village get for ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act money?
$710,000.
710. Interesting. And is some of that left to be allocated? Have you still got some?
Not one penny is
No,
left
is that
to be
right? It's
allocated.
all allocated.
Yes.
Interesting.
They can't claw back anything from us.
Yeah. Interesting. So that worked out well for that. What about the rest of the complex? The rest of the complex, again, as you said, it's wasn't that EDA, wasn't that the good old Economic Development Administration funds at the Swanton Village complex? Didn't you get some outside funds to build that?
Yes. Yes.
Way back?
Yeah, way back.
1978.
I think it was the
I'm not
same,
sure.
I think it's the same funding as the Highgate Sports Arena, if my memory perchance is accurate, but
could be.
they came through with a bunch of projects
I
around
think
here.
you're right on.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it was after the second or third round that our town, our village, was involved in a lawsuit
Oh, yeah.
against the federal government, and when we found out that
Oh,
no
really?
one was actually covered under the Department of Labor Statistics, and how did they allocate money? And we got some. And Highgate got a lot too
Interesting.
at the time. You remember that was the
Oh.
basis for their town center now.
And their municipal
and-
building and the sports arena.
And the arena.
Yeah,
And of course, it's still there.
yeah. I was going to
that
say,
was-
it seems like that money's not thrown around anymore, but here we are talking about ARPA money, so
Similar.
I can remember going back decades at like city council meetings, and the folks would be wondering how we're going to spend the revenue sharing, that good old federal revenue sharing money. But I guess those, I was going to say, those days are over, but here's ARPA money, so who knows if those days are over. Swanton Village PD, anything of note to report with Village PD? Still pretty much fully staffed at this point
We are still the only
Is that
fully
right?
staffed police department in the state of Vermont.
in the state that is fully staffed?
Correct.
Really?
Yes. So
Interesting.
8 full-time, currently 8 part-time.
Huh.
The phone is ringing for Chief Sullivan regularly for
Huh.
people that are interested in coming to work for Swanton. There's
Really?
no full-time opportunities, but our door is always open for anybody that is
Wow.
highly qualified that wants to do some part-time work for us.
Interesting. I can only assume your chief was, I would guess, pleased with the news out of Burlington the other day with interim chief John Murad finally.
Yes.
Nice of the Burlington City Council to finally make him the permanent chief.
Yes. Well-deserved honor on
Yeah.
his part.
Never met him, but he sure sounds like a pretty solid guy to me. But
He is. Yep.
so, of course, some of my friends up here who are boycotting Burlington, they're so upset with Burlington, say, gee, Richard, still, 4 negative votes against him, but at least
Yeah.
Right.
he's a permanent chief at this point.
Right.
So PD's you're in good shape.
They're in great shape, and it all comes down to leadership. They've
Yeah.
got great people, and it's all attributable to Chief Matt Sullivan.
Interesting. How close? Obviously, it's a money issue. Obviously, does it cross your mind to make that a full-time department, or is that just way more money than you can picture spending on that? I mean, it's a part-time. You don't have coverage, do you, from Swanton Village PD 24 hours a day? Or am I wrong?
For the town.
I'm talking about just Phil. I mean, Swanton Village PD. If something's happens at 2 a.m. in the morning, and someone doesn't state police have to jump in or would jump in
So
at some
our,
point?
our
Or?
folks are on call. So remember, I did 30 years with the state
Oh,
police.
sorry.
They still,
Gotcha.
they
And
still,
they're way down. Of
they're
course.
down 60.
Is that
But
right? 60?
Not only that, the same rules as when I was there.
Huh.
They're not. They're a full-time professional police department,
Yeah.
of course, just like we are.
But
But
not.
they're not on from 2 o'clock in the
gotcha.
morning until 7 in the morning.
gotcha.
That's the same little void that we have.
Okay.
But for the public that is listening, we're on call, and there are times when we are out there. So I don't want. I'd love to
gotcha.
dissuade those opportunistic folks that think it's
Sure.
it's freelance time to commit
Gotcha.
crimes.
So
During those
your
hours.
folks are on call. 24 hours a day.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Boy, I did note the story on TV news, I think yesterday, New York State, of course, obviously a little bigger than Vermont, but I guess they just swore in about, 250 new troopers or something?
Yeah, that's their average class size.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Boy, so Vermont State Police down about 60 troopers at
Correct.
this point?
Yes.
Boy, Bill, and you've got that background. Any hope that situation turns around? It certainly seems like not a ton of people are anxious to be police officers these days.
What a tough environment right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you blame them.
No, it's totally understandable.
So, but, yeah, I probably don't want how to say this because I can get
It's
away
okay.
with it. But the climate, the public climate, or attitude towards the police department in the last few years really made them think twice about their careers, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or any young people that are wanting to go into the
Yeah.
law enforcement career field. But I better stop at that.
Do you think that's turning around? And certainly, yeah, there was a lot of that. I'm getting, maybe it's just my more conservative friends who are, who tend to be more pro-police. But do you think that feeling is changing a little bit about police? That hey, yeah, these folks are important folks. We need these people. We need more of these people. Do you see any change in that sentiment, Bill, or not particularly?
No, so between
No.
my career in the state police and running the police academy, I
Yeah.
did behavioral science-based leadership consulting for law enforcement
Yeah.
throughout North America.
Wow.
Canada, it's a higher standard. It's a much more honored profession in the eyes of the
Yeah, right.
citizens.
Interesting.
Here, it depends on the community that you represent.
Yeah.
I really truly think if you did a poll, and I think we are planning on doing something with that fairly soon,
Huh.
with the citizens at Swanton Police Department
Yeah.
services, I think the ratings and the support would be fairly high.
I would
But if you're in
think so.
other parts of the state, that's not the case.
Yeah. It's a tough situation.
It is.
You still keep in touch, I'm sure, with a lot of your old state police buddies, I assume.
Yeah, no, I know. I have a lot of colleagues that I stay in touch with for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Police academy, so the numbers are getting, the officers are training just way down from the old days, or?
Way down. They've
Really?
lifted every
Wow.
training cap restriction.
Right.
It used to be 42 to a class.
Wow.
They would let 70 people in there if they could. The problem is that they're not getting 70 people
Right.
from all agencies in the state of Vermont.
Yeah.
Cannot find that many people to put through.
Wow.
Every red flag is there. I think what you're seeing, and it's another conversation for you to explore, is regionalized policing. That concept
Wow.
is, it might be time. It might be time, and it might actually get legs for that concept to catch fire.
Regionalization of policing.
Yeah.
Interesting. Speaking of Swanton Village PD, of course, covers Swanton Town. Highgate, St. Albans City, of course, has had the Highgate contract for a year or two. That's up June 30 in a couple days, and to be honest, I'm not sure what's going on in the next year in Highgate. Is that something Swanton Village PD, have they given any thought to covering Highgate, or have they got enough to deal with the village and town?
Yeah, it all comes down to capability and
Yeah.
capacity.
Yeah.
We've been approached.
Yeah.
We have declined.
Okay.
We do not have the ability currently to
Gotcha.
meet the demands of that contract.
Gotcha. Interesting. Do you know what's happening? I'm not even sure if City PD has got another year.
I thought that City re-engaged with
I
them with a
suspect they
contract.
probably have another year coming
I
up.
believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is it? I'm not sure. I'm ever clear on the fire department. Is it Swanton Village Fire Department or Swanton Fire Department? I'm not.
Village.
Swanton Village Fire. So just like police, it's a village department
Yes.
that obviously covers the town as well.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Anything of note going on with how are you doing equipment-wise with the FD? You in pretty good shape, or?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
they're right up to snuff.
Yeah.
I think they also are fully staffed. The fire department, I think
They are fully staffed,
Really?
and they have all, with the exception of a few cadets, and that's a great program, the cadet program.
Yeah.
They're staffed, and they're all trained at the highest level for their
Yeah.
entry-level fire people. So they're doing exceptionally well. Same thing, comes down to leadership. Jason Cross is doing a great job. Dan Chevalier is the assistant chief,
Yeah.
and they flock to great leadership, and that's what we're seeing there as well.
Boy, if you're fully staffed, it sounds like you're doing a lot better than a lot of communities, huh?
Yes.
And again, it's officially a volunteer department, but do the firefighters get stipends? Do they get?
Yeah, they get per diem.
They
They
get a
get
per
per diem
diem?
for any training. Well, a lot of the training is free. Any call that they go on, they get a per diem per hour.
That sure sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
And it's what's really encouraging is the average age of the
Yeah.
members of the fire department is younger
Really?
than it has been in years.
Very
Is that
young.
right?
So
Wow.
it's encouraging that the younger people are interested in
Interesting.
the volunteer fire department.
Wow, boy, so fire departments sound like they're maybe doing a lot better than police departments, just more There's still some interest in
Yeah.
younger people getting into fire departments, apparently.
Oh, I think in terms of just generic support across the
Yeah.
board,
Yeah.
nationwide,
Yeah,
fire department's up here,
is that right?
police is here. That's just the reality of
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
And that used to be, going back enough years, just much, much closer together.
much closer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that must be obviously such a discouraging issue for you, Bill.
It's disheartening. It's a
Yeah.
noble profession. I still would love and encourage young professionals to enter the field. I think
Yeah.
it's rewarding, but it's layered with difficulty.
Well, it's, and again, for troopers, they have to retire at age 55.
Correct.
Interesting. I guess that's not that I'm anywhere close to law enforcement, but it wouldn't make sense. I realize it's a tough job, but given the shortage of officers, anybody thinking about kicking that up a few years to even 60 or something?
So that's a state police rule.
Right.
Here's the difficulty.
Yeah.
You can go at age 50 with the maximum 50% of your retirement.
Yeah.
So if you stay from 50 to 55, you literally are working for about 15 cents on the
Oh,
dollar.
is that right? It doesn't do you any more good.
It's an absolute
pension-wise?
disincentive.
Oh,
So
really?
because your retirement's capped at 50.
Right.
So
Huh.
they are talking about exploring going to 57, but again, for the front line
Yeah.
officers, it's a younger person's game,
Sure.
right? I mean, you are dealing with societal's
Sure.
just the ill and the ilk, and it's tough, and then every call is seemingly more dangerous and more complicated.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, you're obviously close to the police situation. What I mean, just in Swanton's case, what are the big issues? I mean, I'm always hearing speeding, but drugs, any particular changes in what the
Massive
Swanton
amount
PD is
of-
dealing with?
Massive amount of drugs.
Drugs are just huge.
And
huh?
speeding's important, right? And
Yeah.
and our job, our role as a law enforcement organization is to have a impact on driver behavior, and
Yeah.
that's through aggressive speeding enforcement.
Yeah.
But there is a marked difference under Chief Sullivan's leadership to impact drugs in the community. They are doing many search warrants, working with local, county, and federal partners. Incredible amounts of arrest, and it's the same plague as everywhere. It's
Wow.
primarily heroin. It's primarily folks just temporarily living here from inner cities
Wow.
where they can purchase massive quantities of heroin or fentanyl or a combination very cheaply and
Wow.
sell it to our citizens for quite a profit. The concerning part for all of us should be they're here because there's an appetite for it.
Yeah.
There's a customer base, and that should be the underlying root cause, is that if that didn't exist, they wouldn't be trying to sell drugs here.
Wow.
That's right.
All right. So just very, very difficult, very tough situation.
It is. Yep.
Gene, you go back, you've had a few stints as trustee, I forget, is this second or third stint?
Second.
Second?
The first one was from 1985
Huh.
through 96.
Yeah,
And then I moved away because of my profession.
yeah,
And then I retired at age 65, and a young man named Neil came to see me one day and said, would I fill in for somebody that had to resign?
huh,
And I said, sure. And I said, if I get sick or I don't feel right, I can always resign. And so far, so good.
Yes.
so when did you come back? When did your second stint start?
I say 2009.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not positive.
that's right.
I didn't write it down.
So how much of a it's a pretty different world being a trustee these days and on your first stint, or is it just a much more complicated world, or you tell me?
I don't think it's any more complicated.
No.
Because when I came on, I was working with Orman Croft,
Yeah.
and we were in the process of restructuring the dam, raising the dam, putting in a new generator and all that
Yeah.
sort of thing, and all the technical details
Yeah,
that went with that. I recall Orman saying that he had approximately 110 permits that he had to get
Yeah.
before this thing could proceed.
yeah,
And he was successful. He just was saying, through the 1980s, and we didn't get to construction until around the early 90s, somewhere in that vicinity.
yeah,
I know we've got all the records back in the office.
yeah,
But is it more complicated? No. But
No.
we're doing exciting things now, just like we were then.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit on the technical side, so I appreciate what's been done, and I want to keep it. I want to keep it producing electricity for our people.
Yeah.
It is one of the lower rates.
I was going to
we
ask
have
you
in
that.
the
Still,
state.
Swanton's still right down there with about the lowest rate, second,
Third
Second or
lowest.
third lowest.
Third.
Yeah, and that's good.
Interesting.
But we are doing other things too. I mean, we're busy with our wastewater, we're busy with our drinking water and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. We're in the process of that. We had a public hearing last Monday or so about some of the work that's going to be planned for phosphorus removal from our wastewater facility.
Yeah.
And that's just in the beginning stages of being formal.
Yeah.
But right now, we're under, I'm not sure when construction could begin, but we have a water line that crosses the river from our water treatment plant. And it's right alongside the bridge, which is going to be replaced
In
sometimes.
fact, that was my next
Few
question for
years.
you folks. Yeah.
But at any rate, we're in the process of building a new line underneath the river.
Okay.
And I wanted redundancy for the last 6-8 years,
Yeah.
and finally I'm seeing it done,
Interesting.
because I think that's important.
Yeah.
I mean, the fire department has told me that if we do, because of an ice jam or something like that, lose that line that goes alongside the bridge,
Yeah.
we could put fire hoses out there, but
Yeah. I'd be in touch there.
I think it's a 12-inch line that crosses that bridge, and they don't have any 12-inch fire hoses.
Correct.
I don't think, maybe larger than 5
Yeah.
inches, maybe.
Right.
That's right.
But at any rate, so I've been after that, and I'm really pleased to see that coming
Yeah.
about. And I think we have everything in place as far as the property is concerned, and we may have one archaeological question to resolve in the next few weeks,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah.
And we'll
We
see
just
where
went
it
out
goes.
to bid on the project on the 12th.
Yes.
Again, for the new water line.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. What about the highway bridge itself? That's got issues, right?
Yeah, so we're doing some additional research on that. It's got issues. It's going to be replaced by the state of Vermont in 2029.
2029.
We have concerns. We believe it's safe, but we have concerns on the expansion joints on both sides.
Yeah.
And we do have $200,000 in a grant, and we have this construction season and one more to help mitigate that. We don't think it's enough. The bridge is now scheduled for annual inspections.
Huh.
That should happen again next month. We're looking into that right now. We made phone calls on that today, actually.
Had that not been getting to bridges typically, how often are bridges inspected in general?
Oh, if they're new, it's 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, really 5 to
But
10 years.
in this state of the state that they're in.
Yeah.
So what we're going to ask is we're going to ask the bridge inspection officials, these two gentlemen are hearing it for the first time, to come in or dial into a trustees meeting and actually talk about, is that bridge in its current state going to be able to make it to 2029?
Wow, that's a big question. Good question.
It's a fair question from our point of view.
Sure.
Yeah.
Boy, and the traffic, can you give me a traffic account? God knows how many trucks go over that bridge every day.
80,000 cars a day? Was that what it was?
Something like that.
I
Yeah.
think
How many?
80,000.
80,000?
Yeah, not trucks, that's vehicular traffic.
Is that right?
I thought that's what it was, in a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Wow, it is unbelievable.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. There's cars going across that constantly,
Wow.
as Neil would know.
Oh,
He's a
yeah.
little closer than I am.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can hear it.
yeah. And Marble Mill Park, you're kind of waiting, again, there were some plan changes, renovations to Marble Mill Park, but kind of waiting on getting a better handle on the bridge work or before you do that, or?
No, it's a
moving ahead?
longer-term plan, but as you recall, actually could have been in the interim since last time we were here. Governor Scott's nearly entire cabinet toured the
Right.
village
Yeah,
and the town,
yeah,
and Marble Mill was part of that, and we've since brought the federal delegation back to work with us on identification of funding that would, for flood-prone parks. And there's
Huh.
actually money that exists out
Oh,
there.
really?
We're working in collaboration with the town, of course, with Brian and with the select board on identifying a future location that might be able to house the skate park and
Huh.
the tennis courts, pickleball courts.
Oh, wow.
And the vision would be to have it be a very usable, beautiful greenscape.
Huh.
with an outdoor amphitheater, with a place to hopefully go just up the road to the restaurant or restaurants that want to call Swanton Village home. It would be a nice addition to the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail. I'm sure they talked about that this morning.
Yeah, we did talk about it. In
Yeah.
fact, I guess the governor is going to be here on July 15th for kind of the
yes.
official opening.
Yes.
And I guess they mentioned maybe Senator Sanders as well. I guess the governor is going to bike over to St. Jay. I said,
Yep.
something tells me Bernie's probably not going to bike to St.
No, I
Jay.
got
But, although I did catch him on TV News hiking the other day.
Yeah.
He was out hiking somewhere with
Yes.
some folks.
Right,
Right.
I saw
But-
that.
Yeah.
For the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, of course, you've already got Richard Dick Thompson Fit and Healthy Rec
Yep.
Path.
Yep.
Boy, that's been plagued, maybe as all rec paths are, by some vandalism. Has that
Right.
issue not been as bad lately, I hope? You still run into some stuff?
I haven't heard much lately, knock
Yeah.
on wood.
Nothing lately.
Knock
Right.
on
But
wood.
I don't think they put the plaques
Right.
back.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that the vandals
Yeah.
tore off there.
Uh.
So if there's nothing there for them to break, they don't break it, I guess.
Yeah.
That's- so-
True.
I guess I erroneously thought for years, I think, that the Richard Dick Thompson Fit and Healthy Rec Path, that would be the western end of the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, but I guess I was off by about
No.
a mile or two.
Yeah, like 1.3 miles.
But it
Yeah.
hooks right into it, so
It does.
effectively.
Yeah.
Right.
But that sounds like a nice event on, I guess, July 15, 7:30. The governor and other folks will be there to kind of officially open. Anyway, but no, that sounds like that should be a good resource, obviously, for Swanton with that getting done. Hopefully you'll get some more traffic around here.
I'll give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
I got an email a few weeks
Huh.
ago from a couple out of Ohio
Really?
who they didn't really need to ask permission, but they
Yeah.
asked permission to park for 3 days in
Oh,
our park
really?
and ride
Really?
to hike the trail. I got an email back yesterday. Can't make this up with timing, giving me the specific date that they'll be there with their car. So it does show you that it's
Interesting.
small, but it's an economic driver.
Yeah.
They're all interconnected. All of these opportunities are great for the community.
Yeah. Any noise about a new restaurant? You ever hear anybody making any noise about possibly starting a new restaurant?
Possibility.
Possibilities.
It's pretty hush hush now because they're in negotiations, I
Yeah.
guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a bakery that's supposed to go in the back of the Champlain Theater building,
Huh.
Winters' building, and
Yeah.
he's in negotiation stages with somebody to lease the rest of the building. So hopefully for a restaurant. He explained that to the state people, the economic development people that were up here. He actually took us on a tour of the building. It's basically gutted on the inside, but it's finished on the outside now.
Yeah.
It looks really great.
Huh.
And he said that he could have a chain restaurant in there anytime. He said I
Really?
would sign on with them anytime, but he says that's not what he wants. He wants somebody
Huh.
that keys in on the community,
Yeah.
that's local,
Yeah.
and that's what he's holding out for, which he's to be commended for that. So.
Interesting. Any more downtown news, Neil? How we think downtown's in reasonably healthy shape? It could obviously always be healthier. Obviously, you'd like to see more businesses and stuff, but how's downtown faring these days?
Well, we don't have any empty storefronts now.
Yeah.
They're all filled up, and
Huh.
the new businesses that are there that I have spoken with, which I speak with all of them,
Yeah.
are doing fairly well.
And I know you've noted women have.
Yeah, they're all-
A number of women are owners of these
Women.
businesses.
And that's the ladies of downtown Swanton. And Gordon Winters was saying, he says, well, maybe you could consider mine not, because I used him as an exception.
Yeah.
And the parts store, the only male
Oh, yeah.
one. Well, Gordon says, well, maybe that's not completely true because my wife runs mine too, Debbie. But the people that I've talked to in the different businesses are doing real well. They're getting a lot of Canadian traffic and New York traffic. Like to see a little more locals, but some of the merchandise that they're handling is like a memorabilia or souvenir type thing, which would be more conducive to the Canadian and New York traffic. But
Interesting.
quite a selection of retail goods in the different stores on Merchants Row and the Bees on Broadway on the other side of town. So,
Right.
but and we're getting ready for the the bid process for the infrastructure, the scoping study?
We have a $300,000 grant that will expire in about 18 months with a $75,000 hard match by us, the village. We will next week do the rating for the ready-made contractors. So the state of Vermont actually has a very well-run system for that. So they have 7 pre-approved contractors that can do these types of jobs. So we'll do a rating. We'll select one of those, and then we'll go out. The initial scope and study identified about $1.5 million in needed projects. Obviously, $375,000 doesn't get you there, but it will get you part way. We did just successfully acquire 74 Merchants Row, which was the vacant lot. If you're looking at Merchants Row on the left side, we'll look for additional funding to meet the gap from the 375 and the 1.5, plus money to redo that parking lot and actually maximize the margins based on what we can with zoning, and put a level 3 high-speed charger there. And if we can get 15 to 20 parking spots, that will go a long way toward alleviating all of the congestion downtown.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Any changes, just the way you have the traffic figured out in front of Merchants Row? Is that going to stay like that? Anything more permanent than that at some point?
The proposed changes are changes. It's not going to stay like that in the final scope. But I think the first stage we're focusing on crosswalks.
We'll enhance crosswalks. Yep. Right.
And bike lanes.
Correct.
Some bike lanes.
Yep.
Or as far as the money goes for the first phase. So, but ultimately, the traffic pattern in front of Merchants Row will change, and we're going to put us on an on-grade sidewalk outside the existing buildings. So you'll have a clear space in front of the stores before the parking starts. So the parking is going to get pushed farther into the square, so that will reconfigure the through lanes. But this way, theoretically, we're thinking the retail space will be expanded, so they can either close in or use the space under the overhang from the second floor for each individual business. So,
interesting.
And ultimately, we'd like to change the whole face of Merchants Row to either make it look more like it used to, because the vertical face is there. That could be a blank canvas to make it look old like it used to, or change it anyway. But that's down the road a bit.
As in used to, as in pre-1970 fire?
Yeah,
fire.
Before the fire.
Before the fire.
But,
interesting. This issue came up at, I think, the Highgate Town Meeting, which I happened to attend, and much of Highgate gets their electricity from Vermont Electric. The Vermont Electric, correct? Co-op?
Yes, correct. Yep.
It was fun. Someone, I forget why it came up at the town meeting, but I think Sharon Busquet, the then select board chair, was asked us, and she said, I don't know, but someone was complaining, might have been Zeb, my old friend Zeb there, who has a high profile at town meeting, maybe it wasn't, but someone said, hey, I don't like the service I get from Vermont Electric. I don't like what I'm paying and stuff. Can I hook on to Swanton Electric? And I think Sharon said, boy, good question. I really don't know.
The answer is we'd love to, but no.
No.
I assume the answer was no. Yeah, not that simple. You can't go out recruiting new customers if you want.
Correct.
Interesting. We're down to about 10 minutes. Anything I'm not jumping into that you folks want to jump into? Be my guest. Summer projects. We're talking some repaving in the village. Have we got some stuff coming up?
Yeah, always. So again, we're taking advantage of Heidi's skills coming on board, and we're maximizing every grant. And while that's for the next funding cycle, there is always projects, whether it's potholes, whether it's street sweeping, painting of hydrants. We have over 200 hydrants in our territory.
Really?
So sidewalks, we do our own sidewalks, we do our own paving. So we have an identified budget for each of those specific areas every year. So our public works professionals, it's a small team of 5 out of the 38 of us, but they do an incredible job.
Sounds like we've got some progress, Gene, with the Franklin County State Airport project. The possibly down the road, big doings out there. You're you're looking forward to that? Is that could be a pretty big deal, huh?
Well, I think it's going to be really
Yeah.
helpful to the entire county.
Yeah.
I know that some of the infrastructure is proposed to start now.
Yes.
And of course, it's extending water and sewer
Water.
lines from from MVU over to the airport, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And at this time, they'll, in a year or so from now, they'll be ready to
Yeah.
expand up there.
Huh.
I understand also that it's possibly the last year for the Franklin
For field
County
days.
field days up
In
that
fact,
way.
yes. In fact, that's I've talked about that on some of the shows. That's the word I'm getting also.
But we'll see. There's got to be a place for them. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I hope so. No, it's been a great event. Yeah.
Sure.
The Grateful Dead, of course, helped make that site rather famous back in '94 and '95. Neil, I trust you caught those shows, right?
Oh, yeah.
And-
But, yeah, one thing before we run out of
Yeah.
time, I'd like to, things going on in the village. Bill was talking about the Public Works crew. They've been working with the beautification committee in the village, and they've put some automatic watering irrigation systems in for the different flower beds and the flower boxes on the bridge. I'd like to thank them for that, and the beautification committee for sprucing our downtown up. And another thing that we're working on, many projects with the town mutually that will benefit both of us, which is, I got on the board in 1999, and this is where I wanted to be 20 years ago. It's pretty exciting to have this many positive projects going on, and not having to fight to get them done. And I think the sentiment is widespread. The St. Albans town and city and Highgate and Swanton, we're all
Right.
we're on a roll, I hope.
Yeah, even St. Albans City and Town, of course, with their big agreement on water, wastewater, and
Right.
police coverage, seem to be doing
Right.
better. And they always work out. I think that gets overblown a bit. There are other areas that they manage to get along pretty well with. Boy, I guess we lost a swan. Huh? We're down to one swan and one duck now.
Yeah, we got Chad. That's Sam and Chad.
Sam and Chad. How are they getting along
They're
okay?
getting along great, yeah.
Really?
But,
Interesting. Is there a hope to get another swan? I guess this is not the easiest thing to pull off, apparently.
It's in the purview of the Chamber of Commerce,
Yeah.
and they're polling, which I think they should. They're polling the public sentiment to see
And maybe I've
what
heard
the
talk
wishes
maybe
are.
make the
yeah.
pond a little bigger there or something, possibly.
Possibility.
They're going to have to enlist more help than they actually have now.
Yeah.
That's why they want the opinion of the voters,
Huh.
because the pond should be expanded, and the little library that I built for them to house the swans is getting a little ripe too. So it needs to be upgraded, but it's going to take a little bit of an investment for that. So
Yeah.
I think they're good for this year, but further down the road, the chamber's going to need some help, either volunteer or funding from town and village, because it is a big draw. The kids love to go and
Yeah.
see the swans.
Yeah.
The families come and see the swans. So that's a real ringer downtown Swanton.
So Sam and Chad these days, huh?
Sam and Chad, not Sam and Betty.
Interesting. And speaking of the Village Green, sounds like a nice. I've noted flyers on the Abenaki Wellness event. I think coming up on June 24th. Sounds like a nice event.
Absolutely.
And a reference to dedication of a totem pole.
Right.
Interesting.
But,
And I trust the car show. Car show's been great. I trust that's back at the end of July, I
yeah.
assume.
Of course it is.
It
Yes.
is.
Great show.
Yep.
yeah. So
I think the Abnaki thing also is going to recognize Dick Menard
Oh, yeah.
for his services in the past few years.
Yeah.
And that'd be a nice affair.
So it sounds like a fair amount of things going on this summer. Flashing back to the village dam, are there still those after you guys to take down the village dam? Does that issue never totally go away?
The Lower Swanton Dam?
Sorry, Lower Swanton Dam. Lower Swanton Dam.
That issue will never go away.
Really? Is that right?
Right.
Is that, I mean, do you,
Hopefully the issue will never go away like the dam will never go away.
interesting.
Just saying.
Does that come up, does that come up before you once in a while, that you'll hear someone, asking you about regularly?
Yes.
Is that right? So it will never go away.
Right.
I know James Ellers was one of the folks with whatever his organization.
I know Mr. Ellers, yeah.
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 Interesting. But you feel like you're fending off these people, okay, at this point?
We're fending them off.
Yeah. But the issue's still there.
For the time
Huh?
being. So,
Interesting.
so.
Any other summer projects? We mentioned a few things going on.
I don't think we talked in detail about, we have an extensive renovation of our wastewater treatment facility. that
Okay,
will go
we've
to
talked about
bond
that
in
before.
November,
You're
so,
kind of under the gun by the state to reduce the phosphorus coming out of there.
right.
So,
But
so
we
that's
will be
coming up.
doing, in the very near future, we'll be doing a series of open houses there. So
Okay.
people can kind of see how we treat our wastewater and what we're trying to do to
Yeah.
further reduce phosphorus and the impact on the
Yeah.
environment.
How big a project is that, Bill?
5 to 7 million.
Wow. So we're talking a bond issue
Absolutely.
for,
Yeah.
Yep.
and when will that be coming up again?
November of this year.
Oh, so November.
Yep.
Interesting. So that's a biggie for you.
It's a biggie. We are researching. There are some grants available out there. We'll try for any and everything. And we have a shot. I think we have a viable shot at least $1 million in grants that we will not have to pay back. So
Yeah.
that's good. That's up to 25% of the projects, 20% of the project. So that would be great.
Well, that brings me back to the bad old days, big old days when St. Albans Bay was on the front lines of the just water. Still issues. It seems like we've gone from St. Albans Bay to Missisquoi Bay to Lake Carmi as kind of the poster child of Vermont's water quality issues. But I can remember when Bill Chaffee, I think, was city manager in St. Albans, and they just did a big upgrade of the wastewater plant to the tune of maybe 15 to 20 mil. And in those good old days, I think the feds were picking up, 75% of the cost of that.
Right.
Because those days are long gone, I guess.
Yeah.
I think so.
Boy, so that's so again, a project, you need to do this, just a project that needs to get done.
It's a requirement,
Yeah.
actually, that it get done.
Yeah,
We could possibly meet the standards that are proposed, but the cost of
yeah,
daily use, the
Yeah.
chemicals and that sort of thing is just too high.
yeah,
And we're not sure it would work. It seems like it would. The studies have shown
yeah,
that we can get the phosphorus levels down, but at the expense of a lot of chemicals and, of course, the disposal after the fact.
yeah,
So the right way is dealing with Aldrich and Elliott, who are familiar with these things.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with them for many years. Matter of fact, they're doing the airport work. We gotta go for a bond
yeah,
and get it done right.
yeah.
Just before we close, any of the people that might be thinking a little apprehensive about our projects,
Yeah.
these all are required projects, are necessary projects.
Yeah.
And like Bill brought to our attention, I think more than anybody, these are not going to get any cheaper. And
Really?
the grant availability is there. So yes, we're taking on a lot, but now is the time or it won't get done. So just bear with us. The community has really been with us over my tenure in there, and they're giving us the leeway, the permission, and it will be for the best of all of us. I guarantee it.
So November vote, that's pretty solid. November vote on that is the
Yes.
expectation.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
But a perfect example. The
Yeah.
escalation cost annually of a 20,000 square foot public safety building is $707,000 a year. Every
Really?
year you delay,
Yeah,
between that and $1 million extra every single year.
really. Wow. Down to about less than a minute, talking to the Swanton Town folks. Sounds like the website, the Village in Town got together on what
Yes.
looks like a pretty nice new website. Anybody want to talk about that briefly?
You want?
Yeah, I can. It's incredible. We used to have to go through a webmaster to do any updates. There's 5 of us that are fully trained now to go on and make updates. Super easy. It's going to afford us the ability to highlight what we're doing on a daily basis, highlight all the projects in one spot for the town and the village.
Sounds like a good and pretty easy to deal with, apparently.
Very.
Very easily accessible.
Yep.
I can access it even.
Right. Well, if I could say that, you'd be in really, really good shape, but I probably wouldn't go that far.
So,
Okay, we'll call it a day. Thanks to
right.
Bill Sheets, Swanton Village Manager, Neil Spear, Swanton Village President, Eugene LeBombard, Swanton Village Trustee. Thanks for the time, folks, and we'll see you down the road.
thank you.
And thanks to producer Alan Cunningham. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV. See you next time.